Meanwhile, for black men in the military, Lena became their pinup girl, and it didn't just stop there. They also named Jeeps, planes, and the roads that they built after Lena as well. By this time, MGM was paying Lena $1,000 a week for 40 weeks a year. She was also receiving $6,500 a week, plus a percentage of the gate for theater and nightclub appearances. On top of that, she was getting up to $2,500 for her radio shows and royalties from her recording singles. She was doing good. In fact, she was doing so well that her mother had read about it in fan magazines. Convinced that Lena wasn't sending her and her husband enough money, she went to see Lena, and she also hoped that Lena could help her get on in some movies. When Lena told her that she didn't have that kind of power to help her, Edna threatened to go to the press and tell them what an ungrateful daughter Lena was being. As a result, Lena had to have an attorney draw up an agreement where she'd send her mother more money as long as she didn't publicize her complaints. Ain't that, well, crazy. More trouble came for Lena in 1945 under the guise of a role on Broadway. St. Louis Woman was a play where the female lead was a flashy hoe. The role was offered to Lena, and she turned it down. She had absolutely no interest in playing such a degrading role. This upset her MGM bosses as they felt that she was turning down a golden opportunity. Moreover, they were upset that she defied them by refusing the role. As a result, MGM began to make her pay for what she'd done. They refused to cast her in any movies while also not allowing her to do any nightclub or theater engagements. The only exceptions to this were if the appearance was good for MGM's business. With numerous ongoing expenses, but not nearly as much income as she'd been receiving before, Lena was frustrated with her situation. However, advice from an unexpected source would help her escape purgatory. Joan Crawford, the famous movie actress, heard rumors about what was happening to Lena. Crawford had been through a similar situation herself and advised Horne to hire bigger and more powerful agents than what she currently had. Crawford reasoned that doing so would get Lena a face-to-face meeting with Louis B. Mayer himself. This was important because only Mayer could remove the hurdles that had been placed in Lena's path. Lena did as Crawford suggested, and it worked. While she wasn't getting movie roles, she was at least able to start accepting nightclub dates again. Meanwhile, while Lena continued to attempt to hide her relationship with Lenny, it was becoming an open secret. For example, Hayden was Jewish, and Lena had begun to wear a Star of David around her neck. Additionally, she had begun to speak publicly about gefilte fish and kugel as some of her favorite foods. Ultimately, she and Lenny decided to secretly get married in Paris in 1947. They weren't able to get married in the United States without a lot of negative publicity and criticism. When they got back to America, the criticism started when the couple told Lena's family about the marriage. Most of her family stopped even speaking to her. Her father went through a period where he refused to have anything to do with her. In 1951, Lena tried again to get a real role in a movie. Around that time, the Broadway play Showboat was being turned into a movie. Lena believed that she was perfect for the lead role. However, MGM instead gave it to Ava Gardner. Additionally, they used the makeup that had been created specifically for Lena years earlier on Gardner. This allowed her to portray the mixed-race character. Also around this time, Lena began publicly acknowledging her marriage to Hayden. This is when the Red Scare in Hollywood began to happen. People who were friends with communists or people who belonged to what were deemed the wrong organizations were being blacklisted. Both of these applied to Lena, and she was forced out of the Screen Actors Guild. She also was blacklisted on radio and television. As a result, Lena had to stay on the road performing in order to make a living. This would continue until the blacklisting began to lift in the mid-1950s. In 1955, MGM called on her to appear in the movie Meet Me in Las Vegas. She also began to be invited to TV shows like The Ed Sullivan Show, The Tonight Show, as well as on different variety shows. Additionally, she signed a recording contract with RCA Victor in 1956 which allowed her to record for the first time since 1951. She released Stormy Weather and Lena Horne at Coconut Grove. Both albums did well. In 1957, Lena agreed to appear in the Broadway play Jamaica. After initially struggling in her role as Savannah, she found her footing and began giving good performances as the show ran until 1959. In the 1960s, interest was rekindled in civil rights. In particular, Lena's attention was drawn by the sit-in that black college students held in Greensboro, North Carolina on February 1, 1960. She saw how that sit-in inspired students all over the South to hold their own sit-ins at local racist businesses. Lena would later reflect that, quote, "I felt so bad and so pained," unquote. She said of her feelings about the students, quote, "I knew I was awake again," unquote. As a result, she was a part of the March on Washington on August 28, 1963. This is where Martin Luther King delivered his now famous "I Have a Dream" speech. She also wrote an article for Show magazine titled, "I Just Want to Be Myself," which is about what it was like to be black. Lena also sang a song called "Silent Spring," which was dedicated to the memory of the 4 black children whose lives were taken in the 16th Street Baptist Church tragedy on September the 15th, 1963. Meanwhile, attempting to get work on TV was an uphill climb for Lena. Not able to make any headway in America, she went to London to try and do some television shows there. After recording 3 specials in Britain, the 4th time was The Charm. That special was sold to several markets in the United States, where it aired in December of 1964. This seemed to open the floodgates as Lena began getting numerous invitations to appear on TV. In her personal life, Lena was attempting to reconnect with her mother, Edna. She went to see her and asked Edna did she love her. Her mother's response? No. She then told Lena that she had wanted her own career and that she wanted what Lena had. Furthermore, her mother wanted to be famous and glamorous. Finally, in the ultimate sign of jealousy, she told Lena that she had gotten her mother's career. That's brutal stuff. She also told Lena that she only married her father because he was, quote, "the best looking guy on our set," unquote. Finally, when Lena told her that she didn't want the career, nor did she want to be a singer, she really only wanted her mother's love. Her mother's response, quote, "It's over now, Lena. Just forget about it," unquote. Regarding her relationship with her husband, Lena's renewed passion for civil rights had changed her feelings about him. She began to look at him as a white man and not as her husband. The chasm between them grew wider after the assassination of Malcolm X, and Lena was devastated by that. However, her husband's response about what happened to Malcolm was equally devastating. Quote, "Oh, those rabble-rousers always kill each other," unquote. This, among other things, caused her to approach Lenny and tell him that she was going through some changes as a black woman. As a result, she needed room and time away from him to work those changes out. Though they saw each other every so often, they would live separately for about 3 years. Years later, when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, Lena went to his funeral alone. She told Lenny that she wanted to be alone in her grief. Later, she wished that he had come with her, but another part of her was glad that he didn't, as she thought his presence at the funeral might have made black people uncomfortable. We're going to take a time out from our story to ask you to like, subscribe, share, comment, hit that notification bell, and repeat when it comes to our videos. Now, back to our story. Around the same time, Lena was offered a role in a Western. The movie had the working title, Patch. The role was as a madam of a house of ill repute. Her character would also be in love with the lead character, who would be played by Richard Widmark. Despite the nature of the role, Lena felt that it was an intelligent movie. It would also be her first speaking part in the movie since Stormy Weather. Eventually, the movie would be retitled Death of a Gunfighter and was released in 1969. Though the movie was critically acclaimed, it was not a box office success. In September of 1969, NBC aired Lena's first American special, Monsanto Night Presents Lena Horne. Beginning in 1970, the next 16 months would be an extremely difficult time for Lena, as she would lose the three men who were closest to her. First, after a long illness, her father passed away. About 5 months later, in September, her son Teddy passed away. He was only 29 years old. Even though she knew for a long time that kidney disease would take his life, that still didn't make his passing any easier. However, what was completely unexpected was her husband Lenny's death in April of 1971. They'd been married for 24 years. At first, Lena couldn't react to his passing after having experienced so much recent loss. However, about 6 months later, the reality of Lenny being gone hit her, and at that point, she went numb and literally was unable to do anything. It would be months before she could overcome this. All of her losses brought Lena closer to her daughter and to her granddaughters. Living only blocks away, she enjoyed getting up at 7 o'clock every day to watch cartoons with her granddaughters Amy and Jenny. Eventually, though, Lena began to perform again. She did more club dates and some TV commercials for things like Skippy Peanut Butter and Tang. She also went on to tour with Tony Bennett, then with Vic Damone, then with the Count Basie Orchestra. Lena made some TV appearances as well, including on the hit TV series Sanford & Son, as well as on Sesame Street and The Muppet Show. Lena's son-in-law, Sidney Lumet, was working on a black movie musical version of The Wizard of Oz. Lena heard about the project and pressured Lumet to put her in the movie. While Lena wanted to play the Wicked Witch, Lumet instead cast her as Glinda, the Good Witch. Next, Lena had a farewell tour beginning in June of 1980 and ending in August. Afterwards, she was happy to go back to gardening at home, and she had no intention of coming out of retirement. But never say never. In April of 1981, Lena came out of retirement to do a one-woman show on Broadway titled The Lady and Her Music. The show was basically a biography of Lena's life in musical form. It was a mix of older songs, some of Lena's songs, as well as some contemporary songs. In between the songs, Lena talked to the audience. The show was a hit, as both consumers and critics loved it. Famous people and stars such as Coretta Scott King, Liza Minnelli, Paul Newman, Jacqueline Onassis, and Joanne Woodard flocked to see Lena's show. What's more, they all wanted to come backstage, see her, and kick it. At 64 years old, Lena was doing 8 shows a week. She put so much effort into her shows that she was losing 2 to 3 pounds at every show. She maintained this pace for 14 months, missing only 6 shows that entire time. As a result of her show, Lena was vetted with numerous awards, including a special Tony Award. In a 9-month period, she received more awards and media coverage than she ever had in any 9-year period prior to that. She brought her show to a close on her 65th birthday. After this, Lena remained in the public eye by co-hosting the Tony Awards, as well as presenting at several Academy Award shows. She also was honored by the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in December of 1984. Lena later described the honor as, quote, getting a few flowers before I knock off, unquote. Lena never expected to live past 68 years old, so every birthday she saw past that age was a surprise. In 1988, she released the album The Men in My Life. Meanwhile, she was also doing commercials for coffee. In particular, she was effective as a spokesperson for Oat Bran, which was a current health craze. Her ads inferred that if you ate Oat Bran, you could look like Lena Horne. In 1998, the final original studio album that Lena recorded, Being Myself, was released. After this album, Lena again retired from performing, and she also stopped making public appearances. Lena Horne passed away from congestive heart failure on May 9, 2010. She was 92 years old. With Lena's passing, the world lost a woman the likes of which we may never see again. She was a woman of timeless beauty and class who could also exhilarate crowds by singing, acting, or dancing. Her impact extended past the entertainment world as she constantly fought for the rights of Black people. In a world that tried to dim her light, Lena still shone bright to light the way for those that came after her. What's your favorite performance from Lena Horne? Was it a song or one of her TV appearances? Let us know in the comments. Thank you all for checking out our video. We appreciate you spending time with us. We have other videos that need love too though, so take some time to check those out as well, and then be on the lookout for our next release. Thanks again, and see you soon.